The segment project in Wedgwood, Houston is really strong, I think, particularly considering the density and the relationship to the street, or, just in the modulation of the form. I mean, there's a lot to it in terms of the intricacies of the plan to make all of that work. But I thought in terms of just fitting in the neighborhood and creating a good urban streetscape was really well done.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great example of urban infill design. It went into an existing neighborhood without overwhelming it. I particularly like how they combine the use of the flat style condominium with the townhome style, and even how they assembled the townhome site was fairly unique in terms of how they oriented it to the street and still wound up pulling off 3 sides of light and air, which is pretty unique. And very efficiently done. So I also admired that it reflected the industrial character and history of the neighborhood. One of the things that we see oftentimes is that projects can Bigfoot a neighborhood and feel out of scale and disproportionate and disconnected. I think they managed to accomplish new development in the existing area in a very strong way. Another noteworthy aspect of the segment in Wedgwood, Houston, was the fact that they managed to deliver the product at a fairly affordable price, which is a growing need everywhere, but especially in Nashville. And so having a developer who thought about not only how it fit into the neighborhood, but how it might be afforded by people who want to live in that neighborhood was critical. And I think the innovative design, site plan, selection of materials allowed them to deliver a product that was attainable.
This project, called Segment, was the third in a series of projects that Core Development has done in the Wedgwood, Houston neighborhood. And the context that we started in is that this was a historically industrial neighborhood on the north side of a residential district. And so this third project is really on the edge of the residential at the corner of Merritt and Pello. Segment is really composed of 3 buildings. So we had a center building that was 34 flats, and it was a 4-story building priced from $239 to probably about $400. But the other 2 buildings were townhomes, and there was 4 on each side. And what was really interesting about the townhomes is they were not stacked, 4 in a row side by side. They were actually in a quad front to back. And what it allowed for is for the homeowners each to have a lot of light, because they each had 2 corners. They had their own private rooftops that gave them plenty of privacy. And it just made it more interesting. It made it more interesting both front and back of the project. Really started having a lot of success with the flats. Those were the most attainable price points, and people started buying them. And so by the time the construction ended, we had sold the whole project. Well, we have a lot of folks who are sort of the urban workforce. So you have, because of the price point, you have plenty of singles and couples that are just getting started. Now we're seeing those couples beginning to have children and thinking about some moves. I do want to say that we feel like we created a lot of value for these people. The outdoor space in the project is really interesting because we have these hallways on each floor of the flats that are very wide, and it creates some exterior living, but it's a place where people get to gather and meet. And you can almost see the spaces begin to fill, and people not only furnishing the decks in the front, they have their communal decks in the back.